everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and today we're going to go ahead and finish the inside of the 6.5 by 8.5 mini album featuring Oriental Garden. So my original plan with Oriental Garden was to use 2 packs to complete this album, and toward the end of my last page I realized that I probably want to go ahead and get a 3rd pack. So I'm actually going to use 3 packs of the Oriental Garden in this project, and part of that is because I wanted to cover my inserts, but also I was out of large pieces of paper to cover the surface areas of the cover both inside and out. So I would have needed at least 4 additional 12 by 12 sheets of something. So I decided to go ahead and break out another pack. As you know, they only come 10 sheets per pack. So I used a total of 3. And when I'm completely finished with the album, I'll share with you what my leftovers are. But right now, there's not going to be a lot. It looks like I might have 4 sheets left over when I'm done. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and lay down what I've selected for the insides of the cover. So these are 2 pieces together, and I put tape against them. I butted them together, and they're going to go in to cover like so. So what I'm trying to decide right now is whether or not I want to put an ornamental ribbon across the center, and I think I do. So I'm going to sit down and look at this for a second and try to make a decision. And they're both pieced together. It's hard to see, but where the white is one sheet, and there's the other, what was left of this. And I just taped them together, and then I trimmed them to size. Okay, and I'm liking this a lot, so I think I am going to go ahead and put the ribbon down. Now, I'm going to do something different than the first time I used ribbon inside the book. I had only used a little bit of tape. I'm actually going to go ahead and run tape down the whole length so that the ribbon will stay firmly in place. And I'll give you a close-up of this when I'm done. And I got in here without my little acrylic square, so I'm going to try to find something that I can use to cut this so I don't have to get up and leave. Actually, I've got this small blade here. I'll go ahead and use it. Easier said than done. I have to hold it in place. Okay, so that's trimmed. I'm going to burnish this really quick with my fingers, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I just added this line of strip, and I actually put it right here against the black, so it's not overlapping. The ribbon will be a little bit wider than the tape, so it'll cover both sides of that seam. That is what we're doing. All right, and it'll probably take me a minute to do this straight. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is use the grid line on my mat here and line up either side with one of the grid lines. There we go. And that'll help me lay down my ribbon straight. Actually, I'll shift it up just a little bit. There we go. Okay. There we go. So that's in. That looks nice, and we're going to tuck it around the back and lay it down. I love this ribbon. My goodness. So there's probably enough tape here to just wrap it around the edge and grab this. And we're going to do that on the other side in just a second. And I'm just pulling it taut, tucking it down. Then I'm going to flip it over and make sure it still looks nice and neat on the front side. And it does, it looks beautiful. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get some glue on it and lay it down, and it's going to go in this direction. I'm real happy with that. I'm going to burnish this a little bit. Okay. Oh, right, I think I'm actually gonna have to change my glue bottle right now. I was just about at the end the other day, and I'm just gonna go ahead and use it out of this tip, but be careful because I know it's gonna really flow quickly. I need to clean the cap before I replace it. There we go. Some of that's a little heavy, so I'm just wiping it with my finger. Okay. I'm going to turn it sideways so I can see these two corners as I get it into place. All right, that looks really good. I'm happy with that. Got a little excess glue here, but otherwise, oops. You know what? I'm not happy with it. I said that, and then it shifted on me. It needs to scoot down a little. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to put a line of tape here. And I think this is where I put it. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just laying it down right against the seam between the two papers. And I didn't realize I had these scissors, so these will do to trim my tape. Okay. Now we want to lay down our ribbon, so let's go ahead and burnish the tape so it doesn't come up with a pick. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up this seam with one of the score lines in my grid. And then I'm going to use that to help me place, I'm going to actually shift it down, help me place my ribbon. Okay. Okay, there we go. I'll go ahead and move this tape and wrap it down and press it in place. Okay, it looks beautiful. We'll get some glue on here. Oops, I forgot. That was sticky. Get some glue on the rest of this and put it down. I'm so used to having the fine tip, I forgot not to pinch the bottle. I basically can just let gravity pull it out. Okay. shoot. The ribbon shifted while I was messing around with it. Darn it. Ah! So I'm going to have to straighten that in just a second. But I'm going to set part of it down. See if I can't do this while it's partially in. Not sure. I'm not sure if I can salvage it, but I'm going to try. Okay, there, I did get it. Oh, yay. Okay. I got it. I got it. Sorry, winning crooked. I'm gonna try again. Drive a little too fast. Okay. I'm gonna go this way. Got it. Okay, so our inside liners are in. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our pages. So I'm going to walk through this real quick before we install them so you guys get them in the right order. So this is page 1. So it's going to go on our first hinge. So this is, I'll go over the design feature in case you decorated it differently. This is the one that has the 2 flaps in the middle, and then these are 2 side pockets. This is page 1, okay? So I'm going to take the tape off, and I'm just going to do one corner. I'm going to slip the pocket page over it, and I'm going to use that sort of as a pivot point to make sure that the page is going to lay down straight, square with the book. Okay. And it is a snug fit, so you have to be patient. I'm going to go ahead and take that insert out. It's just in the way. Actually, you know what? I'm going to try going in it this direction first because that tape on this side's slippery. So yeah, that was much better. So add your page with the where you still have the tape protector on both sides because you can lift it up and down to get the other side in. Okay, now I don't like to press it into place just yet. I like to lay my page down, and I'm looking for whether or not it's centered up and down here. And if it's not, I want to wiggle it until it is. And what I'm talking about is the space between the page and the cover. And now it looks centered, so I'm going to hold it firmly in place. I'm pushing a little more gently. I'm going to test the other side. Okay, that looks straight, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the tape from this side first. And this is where a pick tool, especially one with a hook on it, is very helpful. Okay, so now that's good. Now we can flip over this side and tear off our tape. Kind of pull it down like a zipper and press it into place. There we go. There's number 1. So that was page 1. And this is page 2. So it's going to go on, or page 3. So it's going to get attached to the second hinge. There we go. Double check. Wait a minute. Yeah. Just want to make sure I got them in order. I thought I stacked them right before I came in, but I want to check. I'm going to turn it sideways so I can better see. Getting it over the hinge. There we go. Okay, now it's on. So one of the reasons I like to lay it down over on its side, two things, is I want to see if it's up, you know, if it's drifting up or drifting down, because this is your opportunity to straighten it. The other thing is when you put it to its side before you pull the tape, it's actually pulling. So imagine, I'm trying to think of a way to demonstrate this. So imagine this, my fingers represent the hinge that it's attaching to. We're going over it, right? If you put the paper straight down, it's going to go right against this gusset when you go to seal it, and it's going to make it harder for that page to lay flat. If you slip the page over and lay the page flat, it naturally pulls away from the gusset just a little bit, and that'll help you keep your pages a little bit more flat when you're opening and closing your book. So I wouldn't recommend pulling the tape out while it's in this position. Rest it on its side, make sure it looks square to the book, and I usually go both ways because you look at the book both ways, right? And try to get it as straight as possible, and then pull your tape out while it's resting on one side, and then do the same thing when you pull the tape out on this side. And I know it's only 2 pages, but look how flat that's laying. And that's partly because I'm not forcing it to go all the way down on this hinge to the gusset. I'm letting it rise back up. I'm looking at it. It looks like about 1/8 of an inch. So a fair amount. In fact, before I press it down, I'll bring it up and show it to you. The lighting in here is terrible, sorry. But here is the gusset, the score line in the gusset, and I'm in my own light, I apologize. And then the page is about 1/8 of an inch up. So actually the page is getting installed almost right at the edge of this tape. And you can see there's some space between the hinge, gusset, and the tape, and that is remaining exposed when I lay this down, which is good. It'll help your pages lay flat. And I know this isn't ideal light, but hopefully you get the gist. Okay, so this is page 4, and this is page 5, so they're gonna face each other. And we're gonna do this 2 more times, and then we'll have all our pages in the book. And then I will come back in the last segment, which will probably still be part of this video. I'll edit it together and figure out what to do with the cover and how I'm going to keep it closed. I think I'm going to do a latch on this book. I don't always, but I think I'm going to with this book. And that looks pretty darn good. There we go. So that's a midpoint. That's pretty flat. 1 more page. And of course it will rise as you put more embellishments in it and add some more papers, but it's pretty good. It's a good way to manage putting your, oops, I didn't mean to take that whole thing off. Putting your papers in, or your pages in, so that you have a little bit more flexibility. All right. Sorry about that. And And so this is going to be the same as page 1, right? So there was page 1 and here's page 8. And then I'm going to walk through them real quick because you may or may not have started installing yours, and that way you can see the sequence one more time. And of course I'll go over this very slowly in the full walkthrough when the album is completely finished. I'm going to take this insert out. It's hindering me. Okay, that looks good. Checking to see if I tore off it. Nope, it tore, but it took all the tape with it, so that's good. Here we go. Not bad. I have to dust it off. I got glue everywhere. Okay, so that is the inside. This is page 1, page 2, and of course there'll be an insert to keep this closed, which I'm still working on. Page 3 with a pocket, page 4. Also, when you're putting things in, make sure they're the right side up, because that could have been upside down, right? I didn't talk about that, but sometimes the patterns in here would be directional, and if you put it in the other way, one of the features might be upside down. And there we go. And this is a big pocket. And this was easy to figure out which way is up and down. And then here's our last page. There we go. Okay, and then this is 2 pockets. All right, so that is what I have so far. I'm gonna go off and try to figure out what my cover looks like. I can say that for one of the inserts, and I think it's this one, so I resized this, and it's in the cut list, but the resize is 10 and a half by 6 3/4, or no, 10 and a half. Score at 5 1/4. And then this is 6 7/8, I think. Yeah, 6 7/8. So it's just about a little bit more than an inch narrower than the pocket itself. So that's what this is going to look like when it's done. And so I'll resize. And actually this one goes in here. This one is going to go in here, and then I'm going to make another one to go in here using this paper. But I think I'll put it upside down that way. And I've got a little embellishment piece to put on top too. And I'll go over that in detail in the walkthrough. In addition to what we've just completed, and I'm gonna do some more cards. Actually, here's the piece, the embellishment that I've made to go right on top of here. So when you tuck it in, it's gonna actually layer. So this is just a popped element on top of a piece of cardstock, matted cardstock. In addition to that, I went ahead, since I knew I was gonna open a 3rd pack of the Stamperia, that meant I could use the rest of my scraps to cover the photo mats instead of trying to use these pieces to cover the outside and the liners. I could use them on our photo mats. So I went ahead and covered the photo mats front and back. I was able to limit it to 3 pieces on 2 of them, these 2, and then a solid and 2 pieces on this side, and then these 2 are 2 and 2, just because my scraps happen to be big enough. But when I got to these 2, I didn't have big enough scraps to cover in just 2 pieces, so it's 3 pieces, and I like the way it turned out. I did do a 1-inch strip on both sides, so once they're in the pocket, regardless of which way you're looking, you're gonna see that red strip, which I think looks pretty, and I'm gonna put it in right now. Maybe. I got so many shadows. There we go. Now you can't see anything, but the shadows are gone. So you'll see a nice red strip exposed on both sides once these are all inserted. And these inserts again are 5 7/8 by 8, 5 7/8 by 8. And you don't have to make them this narrow. You could do them, I mean, you could make them more narrow so that they're easier to slip in and out. One of the reasons I like to have my pocket snug is then I don't have to worry about my inserts falling out when somebody's handling the book. But it does make them a little harder to get in and out. So, and if you're planning on putting photos on both sides of those mats, then I would recommend going maybe an 1/8 inch smaller and doing 5 3/4 instead of 5 7/8. So just something to think about. So there's my red cascade going both ways. And you can see, because we took our time and laid the books, the pages in correctly, these cascade all nicely. You don't see them dropping off the edge of the book in either direction. It just cascades straight out. It's not drifting. Okay, so that's it for now. When I come back, we'll do the cover, the spine, and some of the embellishments. Thanks. This is Daphne for now. Bye. Okay, now that we've got all of our pages in, I went away and I put some thought into how I want to keep the book closed. And I'm actually going to make a wrap around closure, like so. So it's going to come around from the back and then lay on the front. And I'm going to attach this to the book right now because I want this mat to be underneath the decorative paper in the back. So I'm just going to lay it right here. If you happen to have the bookbinding tape, I ran bookbinding tape across both of the score lines where it wraps around because I know this is going to get open and close a lot. So I went ahead and did that. And if you don't, that's fine too, but it is a good idea to try to reinforce those two hinge areas. All right, so I'm going to give you the measurements for this. Okay, this is 3 5/8 by 11. 3 5/8 by 11. You're going to score it 4 inches. 4 inches and 6.5 inches because the spine is 2.5 inches wide. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some more decorative pieces on top of here, but right now I just wanted to go ahead and get it installed. So I'm going to go ahead and verify that I'm right side up, and I wasn't. And the front to the back, and then attach it to the back. Okay, so this is right side up. And that's page 1. So this is the back. So I'm just going to adhere this directly to the back, centered, and I'm going to fold it over to find my spot. So one of the things that I do when I use this bookbinding tape is I go ahead and measure out my paper and score it, and then apply the bookbinding tape, and then it's easy to relocate the score line. You can score through the tape, but I think the previous method works a little bit better. And of course, this could be Tyvek or, something else. You don't want your cardstock to be too thick here or it'll crack from wear. Okay, now I'm just visually trying to find center. I'm resting it right on that score line and I'm laying it down. Okay, that is in. I'm going to burnish that a little bit, let it dry, and then we're going to wrap it around to the front and see what it looks like. We've got just a few more minutes to deal with this, work with this. Actually, it looks a little high, so I'm going to try to slide that down just a little bit. And it's still wet, so I can. So it's a little bit higher than I wanted. So I'm just sliding it over a little bit. There we go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to hold that in place. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and get my back panel on. And that'll hold it in place. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's the paper that I chose for the back, and it actually matches this panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and dry fit this. I'm going to tuck this in for now, just so I can close the book, and I'm going to get the back on. So this is the back panel. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm gonna turn it sideways so I can see all my edges. Okay, so that covers up the back of our hinge fastener. Okay, there we go. So that is the back. Got a little excess glue to try to get that off with my fingernail. It does dry clear and matte, but there is a slight trace if you don't wipe it off. It's very, very slight, but there is a trace if you don't wipe it off. Okay, so that's the back. And again, this is going to come around top and it's going to all be held in place by magnets. So while we're on the front, let's go ahead and get the magnets in. And I am actually going to use 2 magnets here, 2 sets, to make sure that this is securely in place. Okay. And I don't know if I've got something to pick that open with, but we'll see. On my blue glue. And then once I get the magnets in place, I'm going to do a liner on the inside of that hinge. So there'll be designer paper on both sides. And that's finally coming off. There we go. There's one magnet. So I think I'll put it right about there, and then same place on the opposite side. So this one needs to go down. Okay. Right about there. All right, and I'm just eyeballing it. This is actually going to be kind of a heavy hinge, so I think 2 magnets is a good idea, or one of the larger ones, which I don't have handy, so this is what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, I'm not going to stick these down just yet. One of the things I want to do before I lay this down and find the location is I want to make sure, and I might even do it standing up, I want to make sure that when I apply the magnets that the book is square. And if it's laying on its side, it's going to do a little bit of this because it's not full of photos yet. But once you get photos and everything in there, it's going to stand out a little bit more. So I want to make sure that this side is the same width as this side. And if you lay it down, like I said, you won't get the correct placement on the magnet. So I'm not quite ready to lay that down, but it'll be just a few minutes. Okay, so I did go ahead and stand it on its edge and make sure it was the same distance on both sides, and went ahead and applied my magnets. So now we're ready to go ahead and add the mat that's going to go on the cover page. I'm going to get some tape over these 4 magnets and apply. This will be my cover. And then I'm going to trim out some pieces to cover the back side of this hinge. And you'll notice when I closed it, I had to lift it up a little bit to meet. And that's because I wanted that square look. So I'll be right back with some tape. Okay, as you can see, I've got the tape now down on my magnets. I'm going to put some glue on this and get this down. Of course, I got to take the cap off first. So just as a reminder, we're wrapping up here, but I do want to let you guys know that I did use 3 packs to complete this project. And when I go through the walkthrough, I'll share with you guys what paper was left. I'll show you my little stash, what's left. So you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to try to make 2 packs stretch, or if you want to go ahead and use 3. All right. Okay, I'm going to turn this so that I can see both sides easily and make sure that looks square and it looks beautiful. All right, now I'm just gently pressing it in place. A little excess glue. If you press the outside edges first, it tends to make the glue move toward the middle. If you press from the middle out, it's going to bleed. So I always try to tack my sides down first and then smooth everything in the middle. Once you get that initial tack down, the glue won't travel past it. So it's a good way to try to help you keep the glue on the inside, not bleeding out around the edges. Okay, so that is our cover. I made this little embellishment. So this is one of the cut aparts, and this is where I've added those graphic 45 flatback pearls. Not really pearls, but and then I added these 3 little flowers. These are $49 in Market, and the red just goes beautifully with this collection. So I added them, and they're not cherry blossoms, but they certainly make me think of a cherry blossom. I'm going to add that here as a design feature. I'm trying to decide if I want to pop it. I think I want to keep it flush, but you could pop it up with some pop dots. But I want, since this is going to move a lot, I want it to be quite rigid. So I'm going to add it here. There we go. It's a little high. We'll shift it down a little. So it's just centered top to bottom. Press that in place. Okay, now I'm going to do some more embellishing here on the front. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think I'm going to put a red strip here. In fact, I'm sure of it. So let's go ahead and do that. This is let me tell you. The red strip is 2 inches wide. The black mat is 2 1/8, and it's just the length of the book. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in. I think it needed a pop of color, and this is how I'm going to get it in. I'm just going to put it flush with the mat that's already here. So it looks like it's kind of a book binding. Yeah, and I'm happy with that. That looks good. Okay. So here is what I selected for the spine, and we're going to use this side down. And I'm not going to apply it right now. I'm going to share with you guys what I do with this in the walkthrough. I'm thinking I might put a brad through it to have some chains and charms hanging down, but I'm not sure. So I'm not ready to install that until I have an answer there. So I'm going to go away, figure this out, line the back of this, and I'll share that with you in the walkthrough. So as far as the tutorial is concerned, I'm going to call this finished, and then I'll go over some of the items that I've done on the inside for embellishments as part of the walkthrough. Okay, so again, in the walkthrough, I'll cover what I do here, what I do on the spine, and then any embellishments that I've put on the inside of the book. Okay, so that's it for the Oriental Garden. I hope you guys enjoyed this collection. I'm really happy with the way this album turned out, and I'm really surprised. I like this size. This is a pretty good size, so I hope you guys like it too. I took a different approach to doing this tutorial where I would start and complete a page before moving to the next page. I'd like to get some feedback on that. That is very different from my normal style where I do all the interactive flaps at once and then come back and decorate them. And I think in that method, it's easier to use your own paper. When I'm doing it this way, I think it's still easy to get through, but if you're using a different designer paper, it might slow you down. So anyways, I'd like to hear some feedback in the comments about that. Thanks everybody for watching, coming over to Scrap and Create and sharing your time with us. We appreciate it. And if you click the More button, The first thing you're going to see is the material list to make this album and links to our shop, and we'd appreciate it if you give us a shot. We try to be competitive. And then if you continue to scroll down, you're going to see the cut list for this album. So on the 6.5 by 8.5 base album build, there'll be a cut list, and that's just for the base album. When you get to the rest of the tutorials, tutorial 1 through 4, it'll be the cut list for the enhancements or the customizations for Oriental Garden. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Daphne. See you soon.